Well, I have to announce this because I've got some little things I want to share with you, but today's my birthday. Most of you know that. Thank you. Thank you. There's somebody else here. Who else is here's birthday? Right there, okay? Anybody else? Born on this day. Now, he is about 50 years younger than I am, but that's okay. This morning I woke up and I knew I was closer to 80 than 75. And that's a shock to the system. So anyway, I got these thoughts that I looked up from birthdays, okay? What do you say to your goldfish on his or her birthday? Have a fantastic day. It gets better. What did the elephant want for his birthday? A trunk full of gifts. It gets better. Just a second. When is a birthday cake like a golf swing or ball when you slice it? Pretty good. You should see Ed. He knows how to slice it. Really good. It's like having a birthday every time I play with him. But anyway, and then here's the last one. You're going to enjoy this one. Because this is what Vicki said to me this morning. Richard, forget the past. You can't change it. Forget about the future. You can't predict it. Forget about the present, because I didn't get you one. She's in Washington, D.C., giving a talk about this time, so she won't see that on the air. But anyway, this Sunday, I really do want to talk about this idea of compassionate care, why it's so important in a community, and why it is so much the Spirit of Christ, or the Christ Spirit working within each of you. And I want to thank some people, a lot of people. First, I want to thank Chris Isley. She and Ramona have really carried this team for quite some time. Thank you. And I don't mean just write somebody, but I mean write somebody, visit with somebody, talk to somebody, and be there for them. They've been doing that for just about a year now, and I'm so pleased and so thankful for that, because a lot of last year I was doing a little more travel than I normally do, and now I'll be able to support you more this year. I also want to thank those people and honor the anonymous, so I won't list their names, prayer team who receive weekly an updated prayer request from Chris of a list of people to pray over for particular things that they ask for. You put them in the prayer box out there. They are not ignored. Then they are sent to Silent Unity, which is in Kansas City, and they are prayed on there for 60 days in a special prayer chapel where there is prayer 24 hours a day going on with somebody in that chapel, no matter what time. I also would like to thank those people who give compassionate care through their teaching. That's Fred and Barbara and Peggy, and for the great job that they do, and others who teach here. Also, I do want to thank our prayer chaplains, and this is those presently and in the past, and there's a lot of them. How many people have been a prayer chaplain in this church? Look at that. Isn't that great? And so, and we have many who still are, and some who are not practicing as prayer chaplains or saying their prayer, but they're praying with people every week, every month. And so they're doing prayer chaplain work also and continuing that. You see, compassionate care is really a major cornerstone in the foundation for Unity of Richmond. Prayer is number one. I think compassionate care is number two. And there are many of you who share yourselves without being on a team, without telling anybody. You just show up to support people when they have a loss. You call them when they are sick. You let them know that you love them, you care for them, and you pray for them. And that is a wonderful part of who we are and the tradition that we are. Now, we also support Silent Unity. And Silent Unity is, did I say this already? That was the first service. Okay. Silent Unity is an organization that was created in the late 1800s. It's over 125 years old, and it handles about 3 million prayer requests a year. That's a lot of prayer requests, isn't it? Most of which are not Unity, which are all different kinds of faiths, all kinds of different people, and it's quite wonderful. I worked there for 2 years and enjoyed the opportunity. And we actually support Silent Unity with 15% of our 10% tithe each and every month. So we send them money each and every month to support the work they're doing because it's powerful and makes a huge, huge difference. This morning, I would really hope that you will listen from your heart. Because what we want and what we affirm is that at least 10 people will make up our compassionate care team. And we're going to have a compassionate care training that everybody can be involved in. It doesn't say, I am going to be on the team. It says, I just want to be better at compassionate care or understand how the process works. So we'll be announcing a time to have that. And so there is a sign-up sheet out front, and if you want to have any interest in all, just sign up when you leave this morning. I guess it'll be this afternoon when you leave. So anyway, what I'd like you to do is, again, listen from your heart and allow yourself just to be in the moment. You know, Jesus, our wayshore, was compassionate and caring. And we want to duplicate that. We want to be that here at Unity. I think that Spirit, the universe, intentionally allows sick people in our lives to give us the opportunity to express love in a positive and affirmative way, not in a pitying way. And there's some things that are pretty important, I think, if one is to serve people when they are in a situation where there's pain, where there are issues, where there's fear, where there's an unknowing of what's going to happen. And you know, one time in my life, I was really sick inside. And as I've expressed before, it took me about 10 years to get over it. 2 of which was while I was going to Unity. That I was growing inside, but I really had to get over some of the feelings and emotions and misbeliefs that I had so I could experience all that I am and all that God is. And when we show up in a person's life, they are offered your presence. They are offered that opportunity to be with one who understands and knows God, and loves the person that you're with. And he wants to, and she wants to give our presence to each other in moments of need. And so we have that opportunity to be present. The second thing is acceptance. You know, it's kind of interesting how, and it's okay, but somebody will say to me, oh, I was sick for the last 3 Sundays. Well, what happened? I had an operation. Oh, really? And they don't really share it with us. And I'm not saying they're embarrassed by it. Sometimes they just say, Richard, I know you're too busy, and I'm not. And sometimes they say, you know, I just like to keep that to myself. And sometimes that's out of embarrassment. And folks who've been in Unity quite a while sometimes are embarrassed by the fact that they are sick because, you know, in Unity we affirm that we have all the power not to be sick. And then we get sick, all of us. And that's because we're in the human condition. It's natural. We are going to probably, at some point, there are very few people I've ever met who were not sick up until the point that they died, okay? A few, but not many, who've told me that. And so we have that opportunity to be there and be present with that person, but also to be accepting of the fact that they are in the human condition, in a place of dis-ease maybe, in a place of illness, in a place of being scared about what's going to happen and not knowing. And when we're there with them, not sympathizing with them, that means that we kind of think like they think, we feel like they think, and we act like they think, okay? That's not what we do. We empathize with them, meaning that I understand how you feel, but I am going to feel that, I am going to be present for you, but I'm going to step back and not get into the sympathy because I want to help you, support you, and affirm your wholeness. And that's the difference between the sympathy and empathy. And so we have this opportunity to do that. And, you know, it's really, excuse me this word, but it's not a sin to be sick. There's nothing wrong with it. You haven't failed the Unity test. Okay? What you're doing is living life and accepting life and the challenges of life, one of which is sickness at times, one of which is illness at times, one of it is emotionally upset at times. A lot of different things can happen in our lives to create an uneasiness, a dis-ease, as I said earlier, in our lives. And so instead of judging somebody, We love them. We accept right where they are and we don't deny it. Your being sick today is an illusion. Don't tell the doctor or the hospital, but it's an illusion. That's not what we say, okay? In the human conditions, there is sickness, and I am here to love you and care for you and take care of you and work with you any way I can. If it's just one visit, it's a huge difference in that person's life and in your life. And then we need to learn how to be prayerful in an affirmative way. If there is another cornerstone in unity, it is prayer. And so what we need to do is pray with expectation of healing and of cure. We need to pray and visualize the wholeness that the person is. We need to talk to them about that, to believe that sickness is temporary, and all healing comes from spirit no matter the method used. Every doctor will say, I do not heal. I put the person, hopefully, in having them have a better opportunity of healing by the work that I do with them, but I don't heal them. And so when spirit attracts the right doctors, the right medicine, and the right caretaker, there is a much higher probability that this person will heal faster and be stronger after this experience. There are studies that show that to be true. You know, Jesus, I said earlier, was compassionate. And an example of that was when Jesus was on the road, there was a woman who had been hemorrhaging 12 years, it says in the Bible, who got brave enough to touch the hem of Jesus' cloak. And Jesus immediately turned to her, kind of startled-like, is what some people believed. And he looked at her, and instead of saying, why did you do that? Why did you disturb me? He said, you are my daughter. With great compassion. And what he understood was that this woman had spent 12 years trying to get well, and she wasn't. She had spent all of her life savings trying to get well, and she wasn't. And so she was an untouchable, by the way, because she was like a leper, in a sense, and could not be touched by anybody at that time and daytime. And so Jesus didn't resent her touching him. He welcomed it. And in that moment, she was healed, as we most know. That is an idea of compassionate care. You see, Jesus understood that, first of all, she was a daughter. She was one with him. Secondly, that she had the power within herself to heal if she had the faith, and she did. And third, that sometimes we have to go through kind of a gesture. Maybe prayer, maybe somebody praying with us, maybe reaching out. Maybe saying, God, I just give up. You do the work. And let go. So that we are able to heal. The other thing we can do is say, the Spirit in me is doing the work. And however it ends up is okay. And that's the hardest thing. And when we care for people, and Carol and Barbara and a number of other of you know this, that we have to behold that Christ in them, we hold the good in them, and at the same time we allow them to be who they are and allow them to be sick if they need to be sick. And we allow them on that journey. And if they pass away that way, it was their journey. And we're not trying to fix them. We're not trying to make them well. We're not trying to do anything other than love them and support them on their journey. So the next thing, as soon as I can find it here, sorry. It went off on me. It's not supposed to do that. Here we go. So the next thing that I want to share with you is why are you and your presence important in the healing process of another person? Well, the first thing I want to share with you is that your presence makes a difference, studies have shown this, in the mortality of individuals. That when somebody has support, they have a probability of living longer. When somebody has support, there are proteins in their body which are created by cells which create an immunity and create the proper drugs, in a sense, within one's body, I'm going to call it that just for the sake of understanding, so that they heal faster. There is that placebo effect, that they're feeling more about themselves, and that also brings about the cells producing more of the hormones that create an immune system. And people who have hope, people who are spiritual, they have shown in tests that those people have a higher probability of living longer than people who do not. So if there's no reason at all that you think you should be in unity, that's one. Okay? You'll live longer, right? Now, a second reason that it's important is because what we do when we are with people is we help them cope. Coping is a part of being in that place where you may utilize your beliefs in helping cope with the illness, with the pain, with life stresses, with the emotional aspects, and be there for them. You don't have to say anything sometimes. Sometimes it's wise not to. But you can be there for them and support them. And that coping helps them cope because you are there for them and supporting them and helps them actually have less pain and heal faster. That's the effect you can have on individuals as you support people with compassionate care. And also there's the recovery. That spiritual commitment tends to enhance recovery from illness and surgery. For example, a study of heart transplant patients showed that those who participated in religious activities and said their beliefs were important complied better with follow-up treatment, had improved physical functioning at the 12-month follow-up visit, and higher levels of self-esteem and less anxiety. Now, sometimes, when we're in a situation, it's difficult for us to understand that. When we got the problem. You want to call it a problem. Because we are so wrapped up in it that we might not see the way out. I had a woman when I was in El Paso who came to me, and we had a group of faith healers who used to meet in the church about once a month. And at one of the meetings, she said, "I'd like to talk to you." And I said, "Sure." So she brought her into my office, and she was a faith healer. And she was well known for being a faith healer in the area. And she had had much success in helping people. And she said, "I'm really, really upset." And I said, "What about?" She said, "I have cancer, and I'm not curing it. I've cured others, but I can't take care of myself. What in the world's wrong with me?" I said, I don't know that anything's wrong with you, but why don't we talk about it? And so we chatted for a while. And finally, what she finally said is, "I am really angry with God." And I just looked at her and said, "You think that has any, does that have anything to do with your not healing?" And she said, "Well, certainly it does." And so you think it's God's fault that you are sick? No, I think that's natural. I think it's God's fault that I can't heal myself. And I said, "Wow, why don't you think about that a little bit? And why don't you pray about that a little bit? And see if you can change the way you're looking at this." And she did. And she came back about a month later and said, "The cancer has disappeared. The doctors are now giving me tests, and it's not there." And I said, "What did you do?" She said, "I just started loving God as God was loving me. That's all." And it worked. Sometimes there's a simple solution, but we can get caught up again in our egos because we are expecting people we're expecting ourselves to recover in such a way, and when we don't, we get angry with ourselves and possibly with God if you can do that. And so recovery helps people because they are supported by people who love them and care about them and are willing to listen to them. So the aspects of spiritual care, what is involved in serving patients and providing compassionate care? What is involved in that? What do I have to do? Well, one of the things is practice a compassionate presence. You don't have to say a word sometimes. Sometimes you can just be there with them. Sometimes you can talk too much if you're not careful. So you can just be present with them and practice that presence and be attentive to their needs. It's nothing wrong with saying, what can I do to help you, if anything? How can I support you? What concerns do you have as you talk to them? And people will share with you those things if you ask. And they may be things that have nothing to do with their sickness, but they are worried about because they are sick. And you may find a way to reach out and support somebody in an unusual way. Second thing is not only practicing being compassionate in their presence, but listening to patients' fears, hopes, pain, and dreams. Now, that's not hard to do, is it? You know, again, I can never forget the first time I had to go to a hospital to visit somebody as a pastor. They called me pastor because I was a spiritual leader. I wasn't a minister at that time. As a pastor. And the hospital was only a little ways away from the church, about 10 minutes. And I drove over the mountain to the hospital. And it was a surprise to me because the woman who was now in the hospital looked as healthy as could be last time I saw her. And that had only been a couple of weeks. And when I came in, I said, tell me what's going on. And she said, well, I have liver cancer. And she said, that's not real good news, is it? And I said, no, it's not. I didn't say, oh, yeah, it's no problem. Forget about it. You can come over. I just said, no, it's not. I said, but, and she said, they've given me 3 months to live. And I said, well, how do you feel about that? And she thought for a minute, and she said, I have a granddaughter who's going to graduate from high school. She's the youngest of all my grandchildren. I've been to all their graduations, and I want to go to her graduation. And it's 3 years from now. And I said, great, let's hold that in prayer. 3 years later, 3 weeks after her granddaughter died, our granddaughter went to high school and graduated, she passed away. I was there with her at that time. And just because she had the desire and knew that that was important to her, she was able to do that. She didn't get over the cancer. She lived through it and managed it until she didn't want to manage it literally anymore. And that's what she said to me. I'm now tired of managing it. I'm ready to go. And so compassionate care says that we listen and we're there and we're present. And in that presence, we are willing, again, to be attentive to all dimensions of a patient, including their family, body, mind, and spirit. And when somebody has a loss, loses someone in their lives, whether it be a spouse, a friend, a child, whatever, that is an opportunity to be attentive, to understand and feel the loss with that person, and to allow them to share their feelings. Most of the time, most people, when we're planning memorial services, are in shock. So they're able to go through the process. It's after that that the grief can set in. And usually about a month after that, I make a phone call to see how they're doing. And most of the time, they are now ready to cry and to talk and to pray together more about themselves than about the rest of the family. So when we are present, when we're using these practices, we also incorporate spiritual practices such as meditation, visualization, and love. I know all of you have done this, and I hope each and every one of you had somebody in your life who's there with you when you need that. A woman by Christina Pochakli, and that's the way it's pronounced, I believe, made this statement. She said, helping, fixing, and serving represent 3 different ways of seeing life. When you fix, you see life as broken. When you help, you see life as weak. When you serve, you see life as whole. Fixing and helping may be the work of the ego, and service is the work of the soul. How true. The word compassion means to walk with, to be with, to share with. And compassionate care calls us to walk with people in the midst of their pain, to be partners in the process of healing. That's when people really need us. If I show up, or somebody else here in this ministry shows up at 2 o'clock in the morning because somebody got hurt or in an automobile accident, or they show up when somebody fell off of a ladder, or they show up at 4 o'clock in the morning because something happened, there is a bonding that takes place that can never be severed. Doesn't mean the person becomes a member here. It just means that we, that person and I, when it happens for me, are pulled together through Spirit. And many times I can't even see the people. They may be in emergency surgery. I just show up because I know somebody needs to be there. Viktor Franklin, most of you know, is a psychiatrist who wrote of his experiences in a Nazi concentration camp. Wow. He said this: man is not destroyed by suffering. He is destroyed by suffering without meaning. When you show up to be with somebody, you give their life meaning. When you show up to be with somebody, you give them that opportunity to feel loved. When you show up to be with somebody, I know a lot of you do this. You don't have to be on a team to do it. But it can make all the difference in the world. And it will make a huge difference for you as a compassionate caregiver. So, I know that there is discomfort when you do compassionate care, initially certainly. And although the thought may be uncomfortable, but we grow when we become comfortable with the uncomfortable. What it really says is when we trust in Spirit, we trust in the universe to give us the right words, the right ideas, the time to be silent, the time to pray. And it doesn't have to be a sophisticated 14-minute prayer. Okay? Written by Marianne Williamson. And it might be okay to use that, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be, God, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for sharing your power through this person as they heal. Thank you for the cure that we affirm is going to take place. Amen. Right? And you know what? Most patients say, thank God, I want to go to sleep now. I'm glad it was a short prayer. And I know you wish I had more of them here. But anyway, so I just mentioned that to you. So be willing to be uncomfortable sometimes because you will grow and you will be benefited. You will be the benefit. You will receive the benefit of being a compassionate care person. So why don't we pray just for a minute? And Spirit, as you speak to each of us individually, let us recognize any desire that anybody here might have to learn more about being a compassionate caregiver. Even if it means taking a risk, even if it means being uncomfortable, even if it means how do I add more to a busy schedule. Let each person here be drawn by Spirit to do what they are called to do, and we give thanks for that, and so it is. Amen. So if our ushers would come forward.